Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran, and in today's video we will be showcasing every single class change that is happening updated for patch 8.2. Hope a lot of you guys are deciding whether you want to maintain your main, whether it be a rogue, a warrior, or a mage, if you still enjoy playing them. But if you are looking for someone new, right now would be the perfect time to change your character because of all the catch-up mechanisms that we'll have to do either way on our mains or brand new mains in 8.2. But there's always that one question that arrives: what is happening to my class in the brand new patch? And with 8.2 being so close, this video is going to cover every general change to classes in the patch 8.2. This video, however, is not going to cover the PvP changes that every class is getting. A lot of those PvP changes are very specific and detailed, and I feel like they warrant their own video. So without further ado, let's dive into what is happening to every single class that's new in patch 8.2. Death Knights are getting some changes, particularly for Frost Death Knights. Blizzard is trying to give you more options, particularly at the very bottom talent row, to want to play abilities outside of breath, like Ice Cap. They're also buffing the damage of Frost Strike, reducing the damage slightly of Breath of Sindragosa, so that if you still want to play the breath build, your damage output overall shouldn't change. But this change does facilitate for you to spread out and look at other builds if you decide to do so. Then we also have Unholy Death Knight changes, where we are seeing Festering Strike, Scourge Strike, Festering Wound, Death Coil, and Clawing Shadows Talent getting a damage increase of 15%. And we also are seeing Army of the Dead's ghoul damage increase by 6%. The changes to Frost look really exciting, and I cannot wait to try out some brand new talents on my Frost Death Knight with the synergies it now has with some of the other builds. And if you guys were excited about playing some Unholy Death Knight, they're seeing an even bigger buff, even though I felt like Unholy was already a pretty powerful spec, at least a more defined spec compared to the turbulence that Frost was getting through the last tier. Overall, Death Knight is looking like a very exciting class to pick up in patch 8.2. Next, we're seeing changes to Vengeance Demon Hunters and Havoc Demon Hunters. The Havoc Demon Hunter, which is the DPS spec of Demon Hunters, is seeing its mastery value increased slightly to make mastery on gear a potential stat for you to want to stack. We are also seeing massive buffs to Vengeance Demon Hunter to finally make him a powerful tank that it needs to be. Vengeance Demon Hunters probably have the most fun playstyle with the mobility and utility, but they never could really take the damage like other tanks. So hopefully this recent update is gonna make him a lot more beefier to take on a few hits, particularly in Mythic Plus dungeons and certain raids. Next, we're going to see Druids, and first of all, Blizzard wanted to make Feral Druids and Guardian Druids a little bit more special by removing Soothe, Remove Corruption, Moonfire, and Rebirth to be automatically cast in whatever form you are by other specs. Feral Druids will learn at level 22 Remove Corruption and Soothe to be cast from cat form, and for Guardian Druids at level 10, you'll be able to cast Soothe, Remove Corruption, Moonfire, and Rebirth from bear form. We also are seeing a massive buff to Guardian Druid in order to hopefully supplement it to be a little bit tankier and more of a desirable pick in the future of World of Warcraft. As some of the tanks have gotten a lot more play than others, Bear Druids have been at the bottom of the totem pole, and hopefully with this brand new update to make him a little bit beefier in terms of how much damage they can take, hopefully these niceties to the changes to the spec are enough to make him a little bit more of a considered option. Then we also have a Hunter update, primarily with Beast Mastery and Survival. For Beast Mastery, the damage of Barb Shot now is affected by Bestial Wrath, where prior it was not. Because of that, they are going to be nerfing the damage baseline of Bestial Wrath by 10%, but now during your Bestial Wrath windows, the damage should still equal out. For Survival, they also buff just how much Mastery does for you, because for Survival, Mastery has been your worst stat, and in some cases, a damage minus. So with this new update, it should allow Survival Hunters that get Mastery on their gear to take it as a less of a hamper of a stat, but rather as a damage increase of some sort. When it comes to Frost Mages, Blizzard is going to be buffing the damage of Icicles while slightly reducing the damage of Glacial Spike. This isn't to discourage the playstyle of Glacial Spikes, but very similar to Frost Death Knight to facilitate other towns becoming maybe a little bit more viable, or some sort of an alternative build that you might want to run. Frost Mages have primarily been all about Glacial Spike. There has been some room with specific builds and specific gear, but now with this change it might allow more of those different builds to come. Maybe some kind of a crazy single target turret build or some crazy AoE that doesn't involve Glacial Spikes. For Shadow Priest, we are seeing an overall damage reduction because of how amazing they have been recently. Primarily a change to Auspicious Spirits now will increase shadowy operations damage by 50%, which is a pretty hefty nerf down compared to what it used to do. Shadow War Pain damage reduced by 9% and Vampiric Touch reduced by another 9%. Is this change going to knock any Shadow Priests off the top of the DPS charts? I don't think so, but the damage that they can do to 2 or more targets in spread pressure is incredible. The amount of output they can do with the playstyle that Shadow Priests have with the current Azeroth setup is insanely good. So Blizzard simply wants to turn down the damage of the AoE spread the Shadow Priests do, which it is going to have a ripple effect on other aspects like the AoE from dotting enemies with Shadow War Pain, or even single target while keeping both of those dots on the main target. This is an interesting change to Shadow Priests, and it might be a good opportunity to start swapping off of them, but if you're a Shadow Priest main and willing to stick, I don't think this will be too much of a change with the gear changes that we'll be getting. More stats, more gear, and the damage loss is not really going to affect you too much. We're also seeing a very slight, and I really do mean slight, nerf to Outlaw Rogues happening in 8.2. None of the class abilities are getting nerfed, but rather keep your wits about you Azeroth trait is getting nerfed. Instead of granting you a stack and buff per target that is cleaved during Blade Flurry, it now will stack up the buff per time you get to cleave with an ability. So instead of number of targets is going to be number of abilities that cleave. So this is going to reduce the damage output of your Blade Flurry, keep your wits about you combo on more than 3 targets, but on smaller numbers like 2 or 3 targets, this is actually going to be a little bit of a damage output increase. For Shamans, we got a really weird change to enhancement out of all the other specs. I was hoping more buffs to enhancement, but instead, the Molten Weapon buff from Elemental Spirits now only modifies the fire damage of your class abilities instead of modifying all fire damage dealt. I'm going to take a stab here and say that there might have been certain Azeroth traits or trinkets that Enhancement Shamans have been using together with Elemental Spirits. Not really sure if this is really a buff or a nerf. It's just a really weird change. If any Enhancement Shamans want to explain what this is all about, all 5 of you that are left playing in BFA, then please let me know in the comments below. Finally, we got pretty hefty buffs for Arms Warrior. The buffs themselves are pretty small, but they are amongst a few abilities. Abilities like Execute, Mortal Strike, Rend, and Slam all have the damage increased by 6%, and Mastery is now 12% more effective. Conversely, on the other side, they decided to nerf the output of damage by Prot Warriors by a little bit. With Protection, Unstoppable Force, Thunderclap damage is reduced down to 30% instead of 100. Protection Warriors have had absolutely astronomical amount of AoE damage that they can output compared to other classes, and with the Reaping affix for Season 2 of Mythic Plus Dungeons, it has made him the most popular tank in the game. With how tanky they are, by nerfing their AoE damage slightly might give other tank specs and classes a little bit more opportunity to shine, rather than have everybody always looking for that Protection Warrior for every Mythic Plus group. Overall, we're not really seeing too many crazy changes to classes. We are seeing updates to certain specs that have been needing certain updates, whether big, whether small, in order to facilitate a little bit more to the gameplay, whether it is rebalancing some of the stats or changing up where the damage comes from slightly in order to encourage more variety in talent options. I don't think these changes are huge on their own, but the ripple effect a lot of them will have throughout builds I think could create more than one build for players to look forward to. Variety is the spice of life, and that's what I'm always going to stick with. Although I did want to hear more about enhancement shamans, I was hoping that Blizzard will do a massive rework for that spec, because I get the feeling out of all the specs that I played that enhancement shaman is that one spec that kind of feels forgotten. Maybe with a brand new gear and the necklace changes and how every one of those is going to affect every single class, we might actually see certain specs that are generally not that popular all of a sudden come into fruition. So while I was hoping for some enhancement shaman changes, maybe with the necklace stuff is enough to facilitate shamans to become the best rank 1 melee DPS in all of the tier with Rise of Ashara. Who knows? Regardless, I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. I do hope you guys enjoyed and found this video very informative and all the class changes you're looking forward to for all the different classes happening in 8.2. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Which class changes are you excited for, and which ones were you hoping to see in this video that you simply didn't? Let me know your thoughts if I missed any other class change in this video so far that is not PvP related. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I might just make my next video a class guide for all the PvP changes happening to every single one of the specs in patch 8.2. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see all of you in another video.